Hey Ron, it's Eric here. Welcome to the video. Today we're going to look at the top 5 plugins that pleasantly surprised me. For each of these plugins, I didn't know how much I really needed them until I gave them a spin, and I've never been able to look back. So, wasting no time, let's have a look at number 1. In no particular order, the first one we have is the Plugin Alliance SPL Transient Designer Plus. I love this tool. It does what it says it does. It shapes your transients, which I really appreciate. It has no gimmicks. It's not about the fancy GUI or anything like that. You just have 2 knobs, attack and sustain, to shape the transients, and then you've got a mix knob, a sidechain filter in case you're working on something, for example, like a drum bus, and then your output gain. So I typically only touch the sustain knob when I'm shaping the transient, and I like to use this very, very conservatively. So I would rarely go beyond minus 12 decibels on cutting the sustain. Any more and you kind of risk some artifacts happening. And yeah, I found that if you turn this sustain knob, even if you're cutting the tails off sounds, there will be some level added, and then there's a internal soft clipper in this plugin, and you can see this gain reduction meter here that shows how much gain is reduced by the soft clipping limiter. Yeah, but if you cut too much, then you might risk it overloading and internally clipping the plugin, in which case this overload LED will light up. But if that happens, all you need to really do is kind of either back off the processing that you're doing, or reduce the output gain until the overload LED disappears. For vocals, especially if I'm wanting to cut the room noise or the sustain from vocals, I'll use this even more conservatively, and I probably won't go beyond minus 6 decibels when I'm cutting the sustain. But all in all, I mainly use this for drums, for drum sounds, and chopping off the tails or attenuating the tails of the drum sounds. It's a great plugin. I 100% recommend everyone give it a shot and see if it works for you. Okay, in number 2 spot, we've got the Universal Audio PullTech EQP1A passive program equalizer. Now, this was the first Universal Audio plugin that I purchased. I remember it was on sale, and I know the PullTech name, and I know that it's very, very famous, and that everyone loves it for this trick you can do with boosting and attenuating the low end the same frequency. So I thought I'll buy it and I'll give it a shot. It was half price on sale, so it couldn't hurt. But then I whacked it on a MIDI generated acoustic guitar track, and it blew my mind how amazing it turned that track. It made that guitar track sound so much better. It made it sound like a real mic'd acoustic guitar, and this really took me down the rabbit hole of collecting a lot of plug-in emulations of iconic analog hardware gear. So yeah, this is the one. It's obviously, as I said before, like, it's renowned for its low-end processing. You can boost and attenuate the same frequency, and what it will do, it will kind of tighten up the shelf filter, the low shelf filter that it adds. I believe it will kind of increase sort of have an effect of increasing the Q factor, and have a dip right before the boost of that frequency. So it kind of it attenuates the information just above the frequency that you select here. I don't really use the high band that much, but if I do, I would move the bandwidth, the Q factor of the high frequency boost to the broader setting, and play around with the boost and the attenuation until I kind of get the desired result. But mainly I use this for the low end, which I'm sure a lot of people that are using this plugin will be doing so. I typically don't go beyond 5 for any of the settings here, because I find that, you know, with a lot of these plugins, that emulate analog hardware, they may be emulating the effect of if you boost more or you cut more, the Q factor narrows or the slope gets more steep. And for those plugins, you know, it can start to sound really, really bad and really, really harsh really quickly. So I like to be really conservative with my boosts and my cuts, although this particular plugin is quite smooth and I find it retains its kind of gentleness in terms of its slope, even if you boost, you know, even up to 7 or 8, which I have done before. But as I said, generally speaking, I won't go beyond 5. All right, in number 3 spot, we have the Tal Chorus LX. This chorus sound is the sound that I had been looking for so long. I started making music about 10 years ago and only discovered this a couple of years ago. And it was the chorus sound I was looking for ever since I first played on a Roland Cube 20-watt guitar amp and turned the chorus effect on. That would have been like 15, 16 years ago, and I loved that sound. And this was the plugin that gave me that sound. This is by Tal. I think the Togu audio line, that's what they stand for. It emulates, it is taken from Tal's emulation of the Juno 160, I think it is, virtual instrument, which is in itself a emulation of the Roland Juno 160 hardware analog synthesizer, which is probably where the Roland Cube amp got its chorus sound from. But I typically use this on a send, so I have more, I would like to say, more elegant control, and I boost the dry wet knob to 100% wet, stereo width always at 100%, and volume just at, you know, its default unity setting. I typically only use the first chorus setting here. I like how it sounds. It's very, very subtle, and it's quite creamy, for want of a better word. If I want it to be extra creamier and have more of the chorus effect, I might put in the second setting as well and just have them together. I find that I don't really like the second setting by itself. But yeah, that's the Tal Chorus LX, and the best thing about it is it's free, even for AAX Pro Tools users. So 100%, again, maybe 110%, I'd suggest people check this out. At least download it and give it a try. If you don't like it, just uninstall it. But it's free, so you've got nothing to lose. In number 4 spot, we have the Soft Tubes Summit Audio TLA 100A tube leveling amplifier. I didn't know what to expect with this. I know the Summit Audio name. I know that they're renowned for doing tube preamps and tube compressors and tube EQs and things like that. But yeah, I didn't know what this would sound like until I gave it a shot, and it filled a void in what I was needing. At the time, I was looking for a sort of a tube amplifier, a tube compressor that was really, really smooth, didn't have that much color, but was really transparent as well. And the CL1B just wasn't doing it for me. It was just, I guess it was just a bit too clean and a bit too quick. So I gave this a shot, and it was exactly what I needed. And I really think I couldn't live without it now. It was completely unexpected to me as well. Like, I didn't know that it was gonna be such an amazing tool in my arsenal, so to speak. I typically have the release to be fast and the attack to be slow. I like to have the meter to show my gain reduction. And then I'll dial up the gain reduction until I see about 3 to 5 decibels on the meter of gain reduction. Typically, the amount of this gain reduction knob here, you see 5.0, it would be around there. It would be around 5.0, maybe 5.5, even up to 6.5, but around the 12 o'clock mark for gain reduction. And then I'll just match the gain, the makeup gain, to either be unity or to drive into my next plugin, whatever that might be. Yeah, I mean, it works just like any other optical compressor, but it has the extra time constant controls, which is really lacking on some other opto compressors such as the Teltronics LA2A plugin. With that plugin, it has a similar kind of function and purpose, but it doesn't respond well to fluctuations in level after the initial compressor attack, which this one does really, really well. Like it's super smooth, as I keep saying. So if you have some material that, for example, a trumpet that would play a sound and the player wanted to initially have that louder note playing and then back it right down and then slowly crescendo up the note in to increase the volume and then drop it back down again. This is the compressor that can handle it really smoothly and really transparently. I found with the UAD Teltronics LA2A plugin, if it handles material that has these fluctuations in level after the initial attack, it will just go wonky. It will just, the meter will just go up and down, and that will show the compression following suit, and it just won't really work. I don't know what it is about this compressor that does it. Maybe it's the compressor itself. Maybe it's the fact that I've set these time constant settings to be what they are, but it really has something that no other opto compressor I've used to date can do. So yeah, that's how I typically like to set it. I leave the saturation setting and the wet dry setting alone, like it's default in normal, and the mix knob is 100% wet. I haven't found a need to use the internal sidechain filter, but I'm sure it will be handy one day. But that's it. I really recommend everyone try and then get this compressor, because it's really good. Like, it's really good, and it blew my mind. I didn't expect how good it was, and now I really can't live without it. Like, I guess I could live without the 2A, but this I can't live without it. Okay, number 5, we've got the UAD Manley Voxbox. This is a native version because I'm not running these plugins through any UAD Apollo interface or Arrow interface. I've only got a Volt, and this is also relatively new, but in one of the rare cases, I actually trialed this plugin before I bought it, and I haven't used it very much. I think I've only used it one time to try. I kind of did like a shootout. I recorded some vocals and I tried different preamp plugins, and this one was just really smooth. To me, it sounded really smooth, and it convinced me so much that I just bought it. I just bought the plugin straight away after that one trial. I haven't really used it properly in a serious sense, so I can't really comment on how I typically use it, but I know what I would do. If I was to use this to process vocals, I'd change this to mic, and then I'd kind of play with the input and the gain until I get some desired saturation or harmonic distortion, and the level is kind of in the right place, I'd compress it, change the threshold, play with the time constants, probably leave it on medium or medium fast attack and release. I'll de-ess it, I'd set it to 9K, and then play with the threshold until I'm feeling good with the de-essing. And I'd put the EQ in, and then all I would really do is probably dip 1K on this PullTech MEQ5 style passive EQ. I'm not really a fan of these two other bands. I know that they're bell filters, they're not shelves. So yeah, like, and all you can really do is boost, you can't cut. So yeah, I probably wouldn't use them, but I would dip maybe either 700 or 1K from my vocal. I'd probably also try this out on different instruments. But yeah, I can't wait to use this, and I'm very excited, and I know that it will deliver the goods. Like, it sounds really smooth. It has a smooth sound that you would be convinced, it's modeling some hardware that really uses Class A components. So that's the Manley Voxbox. And those are my top 5 plugins that pleasantly surprised me. Thanks so much for watching this video. I'll see you next time in the next one.